Hey guys, I'm Emily Hackett. I'm hanging out with Rob on Front Row Live.
Your name just sounds so familiar to me, and it's been bugging me all week. I don't know why it's sounding so familiar. Well, I didn't know why it was sounding so familiar until I realized a few months back I was with Megan Davies,
Oh,
and we kind of sort of talked about you.
Yeah, I love that.
And that was like one of your first like songs that you created with her, right?
Oh yeah, it was
Static.
Static. Okay, yeah. So Static was the second video that we did.
Okay.
The first time that Megan and I decided to do a video was like, she'd been doing the videos with her sister, and she asked me, we were writing together, we were like co-writers and stuff, and she's like, would you ever want to do one of these with me? And I was like, sure. And I was listening to local radio, Lightning 100 in Nashville, and they played Lord Royals for they were like one of the first stations in Nashville to play it. And I remember listening to it being like, this song is special. Like I had this feeling, and I called Megan. I was like, I don't know if you've heard this song yet, but I have a really good feeling about it, and I think we should do a cover. Right. And so we did, and we kind of like finished the video of that right as that song started to blow up. So our video started to blow up, and then it was like on Ryan Seacrest, and it was BuzzFeed. Yeah, it was all these crazy things that we had it was not in the plan at all. So then, of course, after that, we were like, well, we should just do one of our originals. And so we did Static forever ago. So, yeah.
2013.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
That was a long time ago.
I didn't mean to date that, but I was just because, obviously you both look so young. And, Megan is an artist that came from the YouTube world. Is it safe to say that you kind of came from that same direction as well?
It's not unsafe to say that. I don't think that I came from the YouTube space in quite the way that she did. Although in saying that, I have another song that I did called Take My Hand, the wedding song. And that was another happy accident. I wrote it for a friend's wedding with a friend of mine named Christian Luthi. He's actually now in a funk band called Luthi, and they're fantastic on another level. But we wrote this acoustic song together for a friend, and the story behind it is just wild because the person who recorded the demo that we were going to give the couple actually ended up then being my boyfriend eventually, and then he got me to re-record it with the lead singer of the band Parachute, and then we put it out on Valentine's Day, and it blew up to number 4 on the charts.
You're just blowing up organically. You don't have to do a thing.
Very crazy, but but now the YouTube video for it, the music video for that, is at like 20 million views or something insane. Right. So that was I've had some YouTube success, I guess you could say, but I didn't quite approach it in the same way as Megan, but it was really fun to be able to do those videos with her.
Right. Now, how different did that song change from when you first wrote it, Take My Hand, to when Will Anderson from Parachute jumped on it?
It didn't change a whole lot. What we did was just added some strings to it and, really made a beautiful, what felt like a, very heartfelt wedding arrangement, romantic arrangement. And then Will just put the vocal on it. That was pretty much the only difference. My vocal never changed. It was the same as the very first day that we recorded it, which is kind of fun because that was also the very first day that I met my now husband. So it's wild.
Congratulations on that. That's crazy. With Will, like, was that someone that you kind of had in mind that you wanted to collaborate with at some point? Because that's one of my, I love his music. I love his voice, but unfortunately don't hear too many people doing collaborations with him.
Yeah. Well, Will is one of my best friends, and has known, Mikey, my husband, for a while, and they actually moved to Nashville together. So, Will was always somebody who was around and writing with Mike, and then was writing with me. And so it was just a very natural progression. He has one of the best male vocals I know. And so it was easy when and Christian, who sang on the original demo, has a fantastic voice as well. It was just something about the blending of the voices. There's sometimes certain voices go better together, the timbres of them, and Will had a great voice. We knew that we sang well together already because we had done it on demos and things like that. So yeah, he was in between record deals at the time, and it was just an easy, hey, you want to do this? Sure. okay. Like, you know, it was just so casual.
Right.
But it's been fun to like collaborate since then as well. So
now, as you continue to create more music, how do you feel that you've kind of grown as a writer? Because I don't think a lot of artists realize their growth in writing until like one of their newest songs like makes it to radio or just gets some crazy attention. Nostalgia, for example, giving you all that attention right now.
yeah.
So, you know, how do you feel that your writing has grown over the years?
I think it you're able to learn with each new song, although we have the writer's disease of every new song is the best song we've ever written, or is, you know,
every new interview is the best interview I've done.
Right. Like it's the favorite because it's just fresh in your mind, and you had fun doing it, hopefully. But I think that you always are able to, you learn the most from the songs that you've previously written when you're able to get a good amount of feedback on them from fans, from peers. I think like when you have all those people pointing out what their favorite moments are in a song, whether it's lyrical or musical, then you can, that sticks with you as a writer, and you kind of try to figure out how you can recreate those moments in new songs.
Right. Now with your music as well, has your sound, do you feel your sound has kind of evolved in a way, like maybe you changed the way that you sounded in the beginning? Maybe you're still trying to find your sound. Like, are you there yet?
I think that I finally feel really confident in where it's landed. But I definitely evolved ever since the videos with Megan and the very initial times that I chose to be an artist. Because I think for a while I was really just under the impression that I was just going to be a writer, and that was fine with me. Because Nashville gives songwriters a lot of opportunities to perform. Right. So in my mind, I was like, well, if I still get to sing, I'm happy. But it kind of started itching at me to the point where I was like, no, I really love performing. I could say better than writing even sometimes. So really, like when I first decided to be an artist, what happened was I auditioned for this opportunity with Belk. Okay. And the way I auditioned was, it was a scramble. They called me, asked if I could audition very quickly. Like, I think I only had 24 hours to put together a band. Wow. And so I got my guitar player to play with me and an upright bass player, because he was like, I thought that should be good. Like, we'll get a good sound out of that. So that was the way we auditioned. And when we ended up winning, and then the problem was when we won, I was like, oh, so now I can put together my real band, right? And they're like, no, we liked that sound. Oh, wow. That's how you're going to have to perform. And I was like, oh, okay. So it ended up working out, but I ended up touring that way for probably a couple of years. But
you had some major tours during that time as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the Belk tour, we were doing, amphitheater shows for different country artists, around the Southeast. And so it was a pretty big deal. But it finally got to a point where I was like, the Americana genre that I really was falling into, I love Americana music, don't get me wrong. I think I definitely still make a lot of music that could fall into that genre, but there was something about it that wasn't quite me. It was just missing like a little bit of like the rock and roll and like the grit that I grew up listening to. Yeah. Because my dad, he was constantly playing like Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and the Stones and all the classics that he grew up on, along with the folk. So my album now, that sound finally got to a point where the producer I worked with on the record, we really felt like you could hear all of my influences in it, and there wasn't anything lacking the way that I felt about how I was performing as just the trio. Right. So
I always find it interesting when artists have so many different ranges of like influences and genres, and then they create their sound because of those influences, but it doesn't necessarily sound exactly like those influences. It's like you create your own sound. How do you mesh rock with country and Americana and like everything else? Like, how do you mesh that into the sound that you make?
I think it just comes very naturally. The songs that I write, if I play them on an acoustic guitar, they're going to sound one way. Mm. And if I play them with a full band, it gives the song a whole new life. I mean, that's just, production is so subjective. Mm. And what we did with the production was like, all right, what are the things you grew up listening to, and why did you like them, and what were the moments and songs, in just the musical aspect of it that made your heart flicker, you know, like, right. and so those were the sounds that we pulled. So even if a song was like super country, which I have a few of them on the record that I would say are pretty country, the production of them you might not think is. So I think that's what's made, it's really what makes like everyone's sound unique, is the choice upon which they, you know, choose to produce it. Like, I think if I could write a very similar song to somebody, but they could produce it in an entirely different techno pop, very synthesized way. Right. Or somebody could take one of my songs and do the same thing, and then you call it a pop song. So production has a lot to do with really how the genres fall, I think. And
do you have a lot of say when you go into the studio and work with a producer? Is that something that you always have to be in the room whenever they're creating that?
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit of a control freak in that way. So.
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun, you know. These are your babies that you're bringing to life, and you've watched them for so long in this like baby stage. It's like becoming an adult with a song that you're like, I want to make sure that they turn out right, you know?
Right. Now, country is one of those genres that are, you know, when you're writing country music, you get the most personal, you get the most vulnerable. How did you get vulnerable the first time that you went into the studio to create a song like that?
I mean, it really is as simple as just.
Did you really just let it out? Like,
I was like, turn off the lights, you know, give me like my space to make me feel like I am alone, even if I'm not. That really is huge for me as a vocalist, I think, to be able to go there. But at the same time, I think I can do that when I'm on stage in front of people. Sometimes it might be easier if there's like lights blinding me from all the people in the audience, that I can feel alone. But it's just the connection that I want to have with the people listening, that it's pretty easy for me to go there, I think, because I want it to feel like we're sitting down having a conversation like this, you know, and I can just go deep with you and you can go deep with me. And then, you know, so the vulnerability thing was, it probably comes the most naturally for me when I'm singing. Yeah. Yeah.
Now you keep mentioning a record. Is there a record in the works right now? EP, an album? Is this a debut for you?
Yeah, this will be my debut record. Yeah. So it's really exciting, but I don't have any dates to give you yet. Soon I will. But, you know, we've just been trying to put together the team and make sure that the record comes out in the best way possible. And so hopefully there'll be another single release soon. But as of right now, you know, Nostalgia we put out at the end of last year, as well as an acoustic version of Nostalgia. If you haven't heard that, go check that out. And then I did a video in a church called, the song's called Once in a While, and that will be on the record as well. And I wanted to release the video because it was such a cool experience for me. We decided to track at the church that I go to, because I was singing up in church one day and was just like, man, the acoustics in here are crazy. So I kind of had this little like light bulb moment and was like, all right, I think if I can pull this off, like, let's try to track one of the songs in the church. And that had never been done before, they told us. So I brought in a string quartet and an acoustic guitar player who is insane. And we brought in all the equipment and we tracked it live. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, if I'm going to do that, I want to video this, because, you know, that's a once in a lifetime experience. And
was that a pun?
Yeah, no. But the cool thing about it was that oftentimes, like when we do these videos on YouTube, and maybe I'm not supposed to say this, it's like secret, but we will record the song and then we'll record the video to make it kind of seem like a live performance. It's not always completely live, but that video is completely live. It is the way that it was recorded. And it was, I wish you could have seen it, because behind the scenes, the cameraman is in his socks, like trying to move around as quietly as he possibly can. So I'm up there just trying not to laugh, watching him slide around the church in his socks. But it was really cool.
I like that. I like that sound. Are you familiar with Dallas Green?
No, I'm not.
He's like a folk Americana artist, but before he was in like a rock grunge band.
Cool.
But when he started doing his Americana stuff, he's from Canada. That was his vision. Like he wanted to record things in like not necessarily a church, but like spaces like that,
Real
because the
spaces.
sounds are so completely different. So
Yeah.
this is like the first time in years that I've heard someone else talk about it like that.
Cool. I love that.
That's awesome.
That's great. I'll have to look him up.
Yeah, you definitely should. I think you'll like them. So back to nostalgia, you know, this record has been getting so much attention for you. CMT's on top of it as well. What was it about this record that you wanted to create, that you wanted to release it as one of the first releases for the new record?
It was just so fun. Like I was so excited about the song, and had been, you know, the song was, we wrote it probably a year and a half before it ever was produced. It lived as this really fun demo. And it had all these crazy sounds in it. And the song initially came from just this guitar loop that I remember hearing and being like, what is that? That is so cool. I don't know what it is about it. I couldn't put my finger on it, but all I could think of was, it just made me feel like I was in high school again. Mm-hmm. And so I really leaned into that. And then the only, you know, the word that kept coming to mind was nostalgia. I was nostalgic for that time. And so then I was like, what if this could be crazy, but what if we personify that feeling? And so it just kind of tumbled out. You know, the first line was like, on the red balloon at the carnival. And then we all were just throwing out memories and like little flickers of, you know, what feels like a film in your head from a moment, you know, that you experienced as a kid. So that was a magic song that happened in the middle of the night, really. I mean, we were writing really late that night. But ever since I rewrote the song, I had in my head this music video idea for it. I knew I wanted to be at a carnival, and I knew I wanted to be back in high school, and I wanted it to be kind of chaotic, kind of the way that the song is, just going from one moment to the next and causing mayhem. And so that whole music video I co-directed with the videographer that I found, and we just had a blast. And the thing that was hilarious about it was that almost none of it was planned. Like, wow. It was as unplanned as the writing of the song was. You
just planned the date to shoot and then just did whatever happened.
One of them was the carnival night. We planned literally the night before that we went.
Wow.
And I called up a few friends and was like, what are you doing tomorrow? Do you want to go to a carnival? I know this is crazy, but we're going to film all day. And they're like, yeah, hell yeah, that sounds fun.
That's
so
really cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, every moment in that video is genuine and real, and we're having a great time.
Right.
So it was just everything about the song and the video and the energy of it felt right to come out into the world and be like, hey, you know, I can go deep and get vulnerable with some songs, but ultimately I just want to have a good time with you.
Right.
So
no, it's cool how you, because everybody has their own experience from high school or their own memory from when they were growing up. Mm-hmm. And, you know, carnivals here are not that big in LA. But to me, watching the music video, something as simple as the bleachers really took me back to high school. Yeah. So it's kind of cool how you, like, no matter what is in that video, someone's going to, you know, go back in time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I love that. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to connect with anybody, and that's why we went to, like, a diner, you know, and we're, like, throwing straws at each other. And just, when you're in high school and in middle school and you're just trying to have a good time with your friends, you're bored, you know, you'll do anything. You'll go just cause a ruckus wherever you are. So that's what I wanted that feeling to feel like. And so I'm glad that it did.
Yeah, no, it definitely did. Now, with this song being one of the first releases for the album, is this kind of like the direction that the album is going to take us in? Did this song kind of establish the album as a whole?
I would say that it's yes and no. It's a little bit of an outlier on the record, but the record as a whole, being my debut record, I think does a really good job of showing every aspect of who I am, as an artist, as a person, as, you know, a friend. I think I wrote all these songs over the course of a few years, so they are my little bit of nostalgia. Right. You know, I look at the whole record as nostalgia, but, you know, there are some fun songs that go down that same kind of feeling. And then there are some kind of edgy songs where I dig in a little bit and call people out on stuff. There's songs where I call myself out on stuff and I get super vulnerable and, you know, and I just very much learn, and I express the fact that I've learned something from my experiences and want to be able to share it with somebody who might be going through the same thing. Right. So it's a little bit of everything, and I think that that's what's so exciting is being able to share my true self with fans. Well,
I definitely can't wait to hear that. So thanks again for waiting for me today. And for hanging out. Yeah. For those fans that haven't heard you, music fans that haven't heard you yet, what is Emily Hackett all about?
I'm just about being raw and real and honest and as good of a friend as I can be.